Yes, that's right. Talking with T-Bird is back once again as we are catching up with that he was the youngest millennial once upon a time, and now he's here to talk with us. Will Wahl joins us here with a woman who would run through a brick wall. It's T-Bird Cooper. T-Bird, how are you?
Rob, I'm good. So, Rob, isn't Will still the youngest person to have played? I know Julia played before him.
Don't know. I don't know. I have to look that up.
Okay. I think he's.
Don't you do a lot of research before? Although that sometimes your research gets a little fact checked in the real time.
Sometimes it does. Hey, look, I got to do better.
If you could double check your research moving forward.
I think he might still be the youngest.
Yes. Okay.
Good
well, last time out, we got a lot of response. People really loved our last interview with Sugar Kuiper.
Yes, she was great.
Yeah, that was a really fun one. Sugar was lively, and people were very excited about that one.
Sugar had a lot of energy. She has a lot of energy, and she's got a great survivor story. I mean, I guess most people have pretty good survivor stories, but with her playing twice and everything that happened, how well she did the first time and going in the second time. I mean, I think, Rob, maybe we might mention this a time or two, but like, I think even Lex has said, or playing the second time is sometimes not all it's cracked up to be. Well, maybe you can talk about that. Maybe you could talk about that, Rob, but it makes sense. It makes sense though, really. That, you've got all these expectations, especially as well as she did the first time. But anyway, Sugar was great. If you haven't listened to her, you're going to really enjoy her.
I'm being told in my ear that Will Wahl's still the youngest player by birth date, by his age on the show.
Okay. I thought he might be. Okay. So good. There's some information I've got correct.
Mm-hmm.
So good to know. Very good.
Okay.
So we're winding down on our Talking with T-Birds. We only have a couple of more, at least maybe a couple of more this season. So.
Yeah, about closing in on less than a month to go till Survivor 40 several, T-Bird.
I know, 40 several. I'm looking forward to it. Are they back yet? Rob, are they back yet from this last when they've finished?
I believe so. Yes.
Okay.
All right. T-Bird, we got Will standing by. You ready?
Let's do this.
All right, T-Bird, take it away.
Our guest today from Long Valley, New Jersey, played on season 33, Survivor Millennials versus Gen X. It was an all-star cast. Don't let his amazing, deep, mature voice mislead you. His gameplay and strategy were thought out, and describing himself as cunning and adaptable, he was the youngest player to ever compete, and unlike the player just a season before his that lied about their age, his strategy going in was not to lie about his life outside the game, including his age, but to, quote, lie every chance I get inside the game, end quote. The first season he had ever watched was Redemption Island. He first applied not expecting to be cast. He just wanted to get his name out there. He figured he'd be ready by age 22, but God had other plans for this young Christian man who said, quote, I will use religion and Christianity to help build bonds with people, end quote. He was in high school in his senior year and had only a month of school left. He had the full support of his dad. His mom, well, would be a hard sell. She was nervous and wanted him to finish college first. Once she was on board, he had to approach his principal and guidance counselor. They were supportive. He lacked English and gym to graduate, but it was decided a month and a half of Survivor was equivalent to high school gym.
Wow.
To prepare, he took swimming lessons, worked out, and added a layer of fat by eating lots of carbs and 4 meals a day. His game plan, quote, was to have no plan, to be adaptable, to be open to ideas and see how people are going to react. Then formulate a strategy as the game progresses, end quote. He said he was playing from the bottom. He won the first individual immunity challenge. When it rains, it pours, lasting over an hour and a half, which he said he had practiced at home and couldn't make it 5 minutes. He would make it to day 34 out of 39 days. He said he played too aggressively and in fear. Quote, afraid on being the first one voted off, afraid he wouldn't make the merge, afraid of missing loved ones' visit, end quote. And he was very arrogant, very confident. Playing the game was a very humbling experience, he said. His advice, if you play, quote, be confident in the moves that you make, but don't cross the line from confidence to arrogance. He went on to graduate from high school, graduating from Ohio State University with a bachelor's degree in public affairs and political science, then attended Wake Forest University School of Law. 2023 would prove a banner year. He received his Juris Doctor from Wake Forest University School of Law, became a U.S. Navy JAG officer, and married beautiful Allison, the love of his life. I introduce to you the kid who once wanted nothing more than to be accepted and respected, the very impressive Will Wahl.
Will, how are you?
Great. That was an amazing introduction. I always love your introductions, T-Bird. Every time I hear them on this podcast, they're always so thoughtful and kind. So thank you for that. That was great.
Yes. Thank you so much for being with us. So I'm just wondering, you built quite a resume at 26. 26.
Don't
Rob.
say resume. That Will started that on Survivor, some people say.
Oh no, yeah, that's the big debate. Yeah, first Survivor resume. Now I got to work on the real life resume.
This is real resume. Have you heard that, Will? That a lot of people say that you really popularized the term Survivor resume.
I did hear that. I think it was on this podcast, some of the guests talking about that. And I'll take that. I love the term Survivor resume. I think it was, it really did shape my perspective of the game, because I was always thinking, how do I sell myself, especially being so young? So I was always thinking about how to get another, point on that resume to build up my final 3 speech. Unfortunately, never got to give it. But.
Yeah. Well, as T-Bird said, what an accomplished resume you've done outside Survivor. To me, this is so fun that, you played Survivor as a young person. And I feel like, I always like to see like what people that we came to know on the show, have been up to since it's been largely like away from like the Survivor, public eye. So, in addition to everything that T-Bird laid out, what else is new with you?
Yeah, so after I graduated from law school, ended up taking the bar exam, going on a little trip around Europe, backpacking with some friends. That was amazing. That was a life-changing experience.
Wow.
And then got married and moved to Washington, D.C., which is an amazing city. If anybody's never been to D.C., all those Smithsonian museums, they're all what they're hyped up to be. And yeah, it's been a great opportunity.
Will, so I want to ask you about your beautiful wife, Allison, which, Rob, I just learned she's an attorney as well.
Okay.
They're both overachievers. Love it. Where did you meet her? And did she know about you and Survivor when you first met her?
Yeah, so I met her in law school, and she had heard through the grapevine that I was on Survivor, but she was never like a big fan before or anything like that. So she just got to know me as me, which I really appreciated and liked. But, every little bit here and there. I know her family's watched the show now. They never watched it before. So it's slowly getting her to become a Survivor fan.
Do you keep up with the show, Will?
I haven't recently, just with life. It's been tough, but I know with 50 around the corner, that's going to change real soon. I'm going to have to watch that because, all these people coming back, all these people that I watched growing up, it's going to drag me back in.
Yeah, I think you have such an interesting story to come into Survivor and play in high school. I'm not sure how many people can claim that, but it's just so interesting to me. I could not imagine playing, like going from high school to being on Survivor. Could you talk a little bit about what that was like for you to go from one day you're in class and then next day you're on national television playing Survivor?
It was one of the most exciting things and also one of the most terrifying things. I was freaking out on the flight over there, and I was trying to hold it together, trying to play a poker face because I wanted to seem like, okay, I'm ready for this. But it is scary, right? I knew that everybody out there was going to be a lot older than me. But I also was just so incredibly excited for the opportunity, the ability to play the game that I loved. I was a super fan, obsessed with the game, watched every season, knew all these different players, and I was just so excited to live the game that I had watched from the couch for so long. But it certainly was a mix of emotions.
Will, so I read that you first started with Redemption Island.
Mhm.
And did you go back and watch the others before you played the other seasons?
Absolutely. Yeah. Actually, when I was in the interview process in the hotel, I was watching a few of the last seasons I hadn't seen, like season 21, Nicaragua. I was watching that, just trying to get every little piece of information I could. I was taking notes on what strategies worked well for people, what didn't. I was a student at the time, right? So I did what I knew how to do. I took notes and I studied up to try to prepare.
Will, what did you tell them, though, that made them decide to say, okay, let's take a chance on, you were what, 17 or you were 18 when you played?
I was 18.
18. To take a chance on, because so many people apply. What were you telling them that got them so excited about you?
I was really hyping up the age difference and the fact that I was this young guy who wanted to go against these older people and show them who's boss. And I had no idea it was millennials versus Gen X. But when I found out, it instantly.
I don't even think you're a millennial, are you?
I'm right on the cusp of millennial Gen Z. I don't.
You're like the world's oldest Gen Z, right?
Pretty much, yeah. I don't necessarily feel like I'm in either category, but I kind of just adopted millennial because I was on Survivor Millennials Gen X. But yeah, I think I'm probably the very beginning of Gen Z.
Will, I mean, Rob, I think you're going to find this to be really kind of fun. I read or somehow found out that Will got interested in Survivor from another Survivor player that we've talked to that is crazy, crazy fun one. Wonderful.
You got interested in Survivor from meeting another Survivor alumni?
Yes.
Okay, where did you grow up, Will?
I grew
Jersey,
up in Jersey,
you said, right? So I'm trying to think of, am I close? Am I looking? Okay, no. All right. Who is it?
Wait. Okay.
Go ahead, T-Bird.
Tina Shear. Tina!
Oh, Timbertina.
Timbertina.
One of my favorite guests.
Yeah.
Why? How did you run into Timbertina?
So I used to vacation up in Maine all the time, and she has the Timbertina lumberjack
experience.
show.
Yes.
Yeah. And I went to the show, and she talked about her Survivor experience, and it was funny. She recommended being one of the first ones voted out, so you get paid a whole vacation paid for. I didn't follow that advice, but I really did. I became very interested, and I was too young. My parents wouldn't let me watch the show then, but
did you go see her because you knew she was on Survivor, or you went to go to her thing and she said, "Hey, watch Survivor"?
We just stumbled upon her show. Yeah, it was the latter. She just said, "Go watch Survivor. It's a fun show."
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, origin story.
Yeah, that's a great story. Hey, Will, I think I read too that you stepped away from Survivor just for your mental health, and that it took you like a year and a half to kind of come back down to whatever normal was, which I think is very normal for most of us.
Yeah, absolutely. It was not even being out there on the show so much as knowing that millions of people are watching you every week.
Yeah.
Being an 18-year-old, that, especially in college too. I mean, I went from a small town to being in a major city, and everybody would recognize me. I couldn't go outside without people recognizing who I was. And that was a little overwhelming for this little introvert from a small town outside of New York there. So it was a little overwhelming, and I needed to kind of take a step back. But it really was, and looking back now, it was just a fantastic experience. I recommend everybody who plays to take a little step back, but then try to get back into it, because doing a lot of introspection, it really did change my life for the better.
Can you talk a little bit about what was the part that was hard that you were needing to deal with?
Yeah, it was a little bit of, for me, the edit. I was hoping that I would be this larger than life character and that I'd be the star of the show. I think everybody wants that. And especially as an 18-year-old, you build up this story in your mind. But looking back, I think my edit was fair. I think how they portrayed me was how I was as an 18-year-old. And as the years go on, I'm actually really happy with the edit I got because it showed exactly who I was at that time and how I played the game. I play a lot differently now, but at the time, that was me. That was who I was.
And Will, you went into the game, I believe, wanting them to know your age, because even Jeff mentioned it, but I think that he had checked with you prior to make sure you were okay with them knowing that. Since after that happened, knowing how the Gen Xers weren't big on wanting to give an 18-year-old $1 million, do you regret them knowing your age? Would you wish you had changed that?
I don't think I would have been able to hide it. I definitely looked the youngest out there. And that's why I kind of leaned into it.
He's got the voice, Rob. He's got the voice.
Yeah, but they can see him. What is he going to wear, the buff over his face the whole time? And he's tall, too. So, I mean, maybe if he could have just, like, figured out a way to, like, stand very far away from everybody.
That would probably be my best bet. Yeah, buff over the face, stand far away.
Yeah, or maybe, like, sleep all day and only come out at night.
Yeah, I probably would be voted out early for the social aspect of it being so far away, but
it's tough.
Yeah, it is. It was tough. So I leaned into it, and I'm not the best liar either. I really am terrible at lying. So I was like, I'm just going to say who I am. Everything outside the game, I'm going to be open and honest with, and I'm going to try my best to be able to navigate inside the game strategically. But with the age, I just decided to lean into it, have a little bit of fun with it. And that was that.
Yeah. But I do think that, your participation in Millennials versus Gen X, I think that it's a very important season for the show. And I think it's like a season that changes the course of Survivor history when we take a look at it from like a broader view. And not to say you specifically, Will, but that the cast of younger people, and especially younger people who love Survivor. It's the first season that's in Fiji. It's the first season that Jeff really comes away saying like, hey, if it comes down to like hanging out with the people my age or hanging out with, I want to hang out with these people. And I do think that we see this infusion, especially in the new era of it's a lot of young people who know the show especially well, who are sort of like inspiring.
Yes, yeah, it really is. And even though I haven't watched newer seasons, I do look up the cast and I try to follow along on Reddit a little bit. So I've seen a lot of younger players play. A lot of them do really well. And it is inspiring. And I do love the fact that Millennials Gen X sort of paved the way for that with our Millennial Tribe. It was a lot of fun playing with a lot of young people in the beginning in the Millennial Tribe. We were sometimes disorganized, but we love the game. And that really, I think, shined on television. And I think with those younger super fans, they really had that passion.
Well, and with the idols, this is a little unusual. Y'all used to go on hunts with the whole group looking for idols, right?
We did that a few times. I think that was really because nobody trusted each other. So we all went as a big group so that we would all get to see who actually, found the idol. But it's not the best strategy overall, I think. And that's why when Jay and I found it, Jay pulled me aside and was like, hey, just you and I, let's go look for it. And that, I think, is a much better strategy. It was just a lack of trust, especially on the early days of the Millennial Tribe. There was so much drama, so much back and forth. It was not enough that could even be shown in the 45-minute episodes. But there were times where alliances were imploding and everything was in shuffle. It was, everything was shaky in those early days.
And you mentioned Jay, and I think, did you say that you wished that you had trusted him more? I think your moves wish you had trusted him more because he seemed to really trust you the whole time.
I do wish I trusted Jay more. I wish I trusted Jay more, and I wish I trusted Zeke a little bit more as well. I know Zeke didn't want me anywhere towards the end, but I don't think he was coming for me nearly as early as I was coming for him. So I think if I really leaned into those two who really worked really hard to build allegiance with me and build a nice relationship with me out there, I think we all could have made it a little bit further. I think I jumped the gun a little bit. I got a little bit too excited, and I wanted another point on my resume.
Well, another thing that you get credited for a lot when you come up in modern conversation of Survivor is that the idea of the Wahl pendulum strategy is still discussed. I would just love to know from you just how much was that something that you really were going for? Was it different than what we saw on the show, and do you like that?
It was fully my strategy. I wasn't just saying it to say it. It was what was going to be my final three speech, talking about how I swung from alliance to alliance. And it even dated back from the very beginning, where Michaela and I were kind of the swing votes between the two alliances on the Millennial tribe. So I always felt like I was in the middle, and I wanted to swing back and forth. I think people can do it. I think Tony Vlachos kind of did a little bit of that. It certainly can be effective. An 18-year-old doing it is a lot harder than somebody who has the social capital to be able to pull it off. But I think it's a great strategy. And if people have that social capital, it can be very effective because you get to try to choose who goes to the end with you a little bit more. You have a little bit more agency when you're the one controlling all those votes as the swing. But I think it can get kind of dicey for people who don't have that stuff.
Yeah, and I think the real question about it is, how do you keep yourself important enough or valued enough by both of the groups that the groups don't look at you as an unreliable number?
Yeah, that happened on your season, right, Rob, where the swing vote got voted out.
Well, yeah, the person felt like, and we've seen this also in Survivor Cagayan with Sarah, also like the person's like, hey, I have all the power here. Sometimes that person's like, well, maybe you're overplaying your hand.
Exactly. And I think I overplayed my hand a little bit. And that's where it went from being effective to very ineffective quickly. And I think that's what was set off.
I think it's hard for one person to do it and do it for a long time. But I do think that maybe like a duo could do it, where it's not that like you can't just necessarily now like turn and get like this one person out. Like I feel like that if there's like a block that's okay, we're here, and Tony always had Woo with him. I think that maybe if you have like a duo that's potentially doing the pendulum, maybe there could be a little bit more long-term viability in that.
I think that's a really good point. Yeah, if I was working with maybe Brett or Sunday or maybe a combination of the three of us, I think we could have really effectively done that a lot better. But yeah, that's a very good point. Doing it just solo, that's tricky.
If you could have gotten Michaela off the seashell plan, maybe you could have brought her in to your pendulum strategy.
I have so many regrets about that vote. I really wish that we just worked with Michaela. She had a fantastic plan going all the way through. And I think really what it came down to was Jay and I were just bored out there. We were antsy. I think Stephen Fishback even said that in the podcast. We were there so many days and hadn't seen a lot of action, so we wanted to make a big move.
Okay.
And it was just such a bad move. Michaela was really a great, loyal person for us, and she was never going to betray us, or at least not anytime soon. So I have a lot of regrets about that vote. That's probably one of my biggest regrets about my game. I wish we went further.
Interesting. So who were you voting for that night to have gone home? Was it Brett, or like if you did not vote out Michaela?
It was Brett. Yeah. Yeah. And Brett was a great ally later down the road for me as well. But I just think Michaela would have always had our backs. And I think voting out Michaela, Hannah told me after, really ostracized us from the rest of the Millennials. Whereas maybe the Millennials could have been united a little bit longer going into the merge had Michaela still been there.
But it was a great TV moment.
Oh, yes. Yes. It was probably one of the biggest moments of the season. Yeah.
And Rob, he just mentioned Brett. So I've got to give you a little more time, I was told. So I think this is so fun. What can a Gen Xer learn from a millennial? Basically, probably nothing.
We'll see. Okay. Here is your old tribe mate, Brett.
Hey everyone, how you doing? Will, glad to see you, buddy. Been a long time, my friend. Been a long time. T-Bird hit me up and said that her and Rob are going to have you on the podcast, so I just had to send in a video message. And I mean, look at you. My God, look what you've done. I think you got married. You've become a JAG officer. I mean, congratulations. That's so awesome. Thank you for your service. That's just great. I mean, thank God you're like a JAG officer. I mean, so you're a lawyer. I mean, you went to law school. You graduated, became a JAG lawyer, which is fantastic. It's better than being a scumbag defense attorney like Chris Hammond. So I appreciate that, and I'm proud of you, bud. That's awesome. And one of my favorite stories about Will was when we went out. I met him for the first time on Ikabula, and it was 6 of us out there, and me and Sunday knew each other, but we didn't know the other guy. So it was really cool to kind of get some fresh faces to talk to after a couple weeks with the Gen X tribe. And I thought to myself, this 18-year-old kid, what's he going to teach me? He's the same age as my nieces and my nephews. But man, I'll tell you, we were sitting around the fire one night. Will, I know you remember this. Everyone's talking about food. You're starving out there. There's nothing to eat. So you're sitting around there talking about food. And I go, so we said, what's the one thing when you get back to civilization, what's the one meal you're going to have? And I think we went around the fire, and I think I said steaks. Sunday might have said steaks. I think Hannah said sushi. I don't know. But everyone had something different. And we get to Will, and Will said, I'm going to go get a big tub of peanut butter, and I'm going to get some chocolate bars, and I'm going to dip the chocolate bar in the peanut butter, and I'm going to eat it. And I literally looked at him, and I'm starving. And I looked at him, I said, that sounds so good. And I think Will and I literally for the next 2 days, that's all we talked about was dipping chocolate bars in peanut butter. So when I got back to Boston, a couple nights later, I went out to Whole Foods. I didn't get any of that Skippy shit or any of that stuff. I went to Whole Foods, ground up my own fresh peanut butter. And I went and got the Cadbury milk chocolate bars, not the little ones. I got the 360-gram ones. And I sat in front of my TV for 2 hours and I ate. I dipped my Cadbury chocolate into the fresh peanut butter, and it was so good. And Will, you were so right. And I was like, I never thought that Will would teach me anything out there, but he taught me he gave me one of the best snacks that I still eat today. So thanks, buddy. Listen, congrats on getting married and all that. Miss you. Let's get together soon, buddy. All right, take care. Rob, hello. Everyone misses me. I'm still here. T-Bird, love you. Talk to you soon. Bye, guys.
Will, we got to vote on
Hold on. Wait.
Slow down.
Look, note to Sam, don't send these back to back. Okay. All right.
The chocolate and peanut butter thing, that was a big conversation out there.
Wow. Will, you invented chocolate and peanut butter together?
I can't take credit for inventing. But I love
his mind, T-Bird.
That was one of the first things I had when I was voted off. Just dip Oreos in peanut butter or chocolate and peanut butter. It's so good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was. And it was.
So I hear. Yes.
There. Yeah.
So Will and Rob, that happens, I guess, at every season where you're just sitting around talking about food. And I think I remember production saying, cut it with all the food stuff. Because, it gets probably, but you can't help it. It just happens.
That's interesting that they wouldn't let you talk about food out there. For us, they said no songs or anything that are copyrighted, but they let us talk about food as much as we wanted to.
Well, I don't know that they said don't talk about it, but I think it went on for quite some time.
I think they'll let you go for a little bit, and then it's like, all right, come on, let's get to something else, people. Come on.
Yeah.
That's fair. That is fair.
So, Will, you and I, Rob, tell the truth here. Have I ever said that anybody reminds them of me? That we've talked to, that they're so
not that I can recall, but I'm interested to see where this is going to go.
This is so cool. There are quite a few similarities between the two of us. Okay, you played at 18 and I played at 40.
Okay.
So a couple of things. Since coming back, I've never watched any of Africa. I've never watched it. I just never wanted to. And I think I read that you had watched maybe bits and pieces, but that you hadn't watched your whole season. Is that true?
Yeah, that's true.
So that's one thing. Okay. We both lasted the longest having no votes against us. Right?
Okay.
I think when I went out, I never had a vote. Then I got 4 votes. And then you got, I guess, 6 votes.
Mm-hmm.
Another thing. Okay. And let's see. Another one, our game plan. When I went in front of CBS and they said, "What's your plan?" What I said was, my plan is I have no plan. I'm going to watch it and see how it plays out. Exactly what you did. And then the other thing, when it rains, it pours. That was our challenge.
Yep.
And they actually changed it up for y'all. And y'all had both arms up where we just had the one arm up. So that's 4 things. That's very awesome. That's it, Rob.
Yeah.
That's it? There's nothing else in common?
Well, there may be, but 4 things, that's kind of a lot. It's a lot. We were voted out about the same exact time. And, to be the age difference.
Pretty good.
Male, female, and our age difference, to have so many similarities, I thought was really neat as I was learning about you.
Yeah, and that challenge, if it rains, it pours, that is a tough one. It really kind of wears you down once you hit that hour mark.
What were you thinking about? Do you remember what you were thinking about when you were doing it other than you needed to win?
Yes, I kept thinking about the fact that I had a hand in voting out several people pre-merge. We hadn't found out that we were on the jury yet. And I was afraid that I'd be voted out, wouldn't make the jury, and would have to face all those people that I had a hand in voting out. So that was really a big motivator for me to keep pushing on.
Right. And you lost 20 pounds out there.
Yes. Yeah. And I didn't have 20 pounds to lose.
I know. Because like Rob said, you were tall, but you probably didn't. I mean, that's a lot of weight, 20 pounds. How long did it take you to put it back on?
It actually didn't take long at all. I feel like after a few weeks, I had
enough chocolate bars and peanut butter. That'll do the trick.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Well, who do you keep up with from your season?
Yeah, so for a long time, I kept up with Hannah. And just with this last year, it's been kind of a whirlwind. But Hannah and I had kept in constant contact. And then I have everybody on Facebook. We wish each other happy birthdays and things like that. But I really need to maybe go and have a little reunion with everybody. It's been way too long. And I mean, all these people had, kind of as Brett was saying, like we had an impact on each other out there. And we really did leave a lasting memory. So I need to reconnect with a lot of them.
Famously, after the season was over, I remember as an outsider being like, wow, this cast is hanging out all the time. And I remember everybody went to Vegas after. Did you go, or were you invited to go to Vegas after the season was over?
I was, but as someone who was under 21, I stepped back. I did not go with them. I stayed with family. We ended up meeting up with other family out there. That's why I'm not in any of the pictures, but it seemed like a very fun time.
Okay. All right. But you did end up getting there?
Yes. My cousin lives out there. So I was out there.
Okay. So you stayed with your cousin and then got to see everybody.
Oh, I didn't really meet up with too many people.
Okay. Vegas. You were just in Vegas at the same time as them.
I believe it was at the same time.
Okay.
Yeah, something like that. But I did not participate in any of they were
shenanigans. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, Rob, you mentioned his age and him not being 21 to go to Vegas. Now might be a good time to put the other little clip in that, we kind of already.
Not with the power of editing, T-Bird. Okay. All right. Okay. Let's see what another familiar face has to say. It's David Wright.
Will, we've got to vote out Adam. Wait, what? That's better. Hey, Will, it's David Wright. T-Bird asked me if I wanted to say hi, and I didn't hesitate to say yes. I'm just sitting on my catio with my cat in sunny Sherman Oaks, California. And happy birthday again. I hope jagging is going well. Is that something? Give me a shout next time you're in LA, and we'll grab drinks. Beer for me, soft drinks for you. Sorry, you're probably sick of that joke, and you probably were 8 years ago. Anyway, I hope all is well in your world, Will, and take care, man. Bye-bye.
Wait, does David Wright just have his Survivor uniform on the ready, like Superman?
That's what I was thinking. It kind of brought me back a little bit. I was like, oh, wow, we're back on the island.
Yeah.
Does David talk that fast? I didn't know. I mean, does he talk that fast normally? I mean, I hadn't met him like in real life, even though I feel like I know him.
It depends on the moment, but yeah, when he gets excited or passionate about something, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
right.
Did David Wright say he's on the catio also?
That's what I think he said. Yeah, patio with the cat, I guess.
Okay.
That is cool.
David, you've got to love him. He's always got, All right. So, Will, let me ask you about Jeff Probst. So you watched I think we all have things built up in our mind about Probst before we actually get the opportunity. Because I remember being really excited just to see him once we got out there. How do you think he has progressed from when you first watched him in Borneo up to your season?
Yeah, I think by the time that I saw him on my season, he was really the leader of the show. And I know he wasn't always like the producer, but by the time he got there, it was a well-oiled machine. He was leading it. I felt like he genuinely really cared about all of us and how we were doing. I'm sure he did throughout every season, but that was something that really struck me, was just how great of a leader he was for the whole crew and for us as a cast. He really, during tribal councils, led us to the proper places. He always kind of controlled the flow of the conversation. And I'm sure that takes a lot of practice. When you have a lot of different big personalities out there, he always knew exactly how to drive the conversation to where it needed to go.
Robbie, you want to ask him the question? You want me to?
It's your question, T-Bird.
Okay. What's one word that you would use to describe Jeff Probst?
Passionate. Survivor is his baby. He loves it. And he loves to share Survivor, but you got to have that same passion and that same respect for the show. The only times I've ever seen Jeff get upset is when people don't have the respect for Survivor and what it is. But so long as you have that respect and that love, he loves to share it.
Do you think once he decides to retire, who do you think could step into his shoes and keep it going?
That is so tough. Rob, maybe. I don't know if that's a job that you would want.
Boston Rob? Oh my God.
No, you Rob. I don't know if
stop. Will, thank you. But I think they're gonna go in a different direction. I think if and when Jeff wants to do it, they could do better. They'd be slumming it.
I just feel like it's so hard to replace Jeff. He's such a big personality, and I don't even know where to begin with that. Would you get a former player, or would you try to get somebody else, maybe go outside of the Survivor community? I'm not sure. I don't really know what the right answer is for that.
Well, you were involved in a huge moment in Survivor history of the big rock draw at 10. You were deadlocked, and I feel like so much has been talked about this, but from your perspective, what was that like to go through that moment?
That was absolutely terrifying, but also in a weird way, I felt this piece of calm, like the power after all the votes had been cast and I knew we were going to Rocks. Everything was out of my hands. It was all luck. It was all fate. And it was this weird kind of terrifying, but also this weird sense of calm. I was very close to flipping my vote, very close to flipping the other way, but reading the reactions of the room, I thought somebody else was going to. And when that didn't happen, I was like, oh no. But eventually I realized it's just out of my hands. I can't control it anymore.
Yeah. After going through that experience, what should a person do in that spot, especially somebody who is considering flipping in that moment?
Yeah, I would try to read the body language as best you could, perhaps better than I did because I misread it. But try to see if you think anyone else is going to flip. Try to do the best convincing you can to get somebody else to flip. But if you feel like you need to be the one to do it, then go ahead and do it. Because at the end of the day, you got to protect yourself out there, right? It's one person wins at the end. So do what you can to try to make it to the next vote.
Do you like to see The Rock happen out there?
Well, it hasn't happened since these guys did it. And I think that's
time. Okay.
and I think it's so interesting, like over the course of history of the show, where that in Survivor Marquesas, Pascal draws the rock, and it's a big moment, and it scared people enough so that nobody else, the specter of I don't want to lose the game on a rock, ends up being something that keeps people at it. It was such a deterrent of that the rock, and then it doesn't happen again until Tyson in Survivor Blood versus Water. Tyson gets through it and he wins the season. And I think that then there's like a little bit of like, oh, see, like Tyson did it and it worked out great for Tyson. We don't really look at it from Katie's perspective of how she lost the game. And I think that maybe the idea of like, okay, Tyson did it and he won ends up being like, okay, well, now it's on the table of sure, let's go to rocks. Let's all like it worked for Tyson. That's a fine thing. But I think that it was then just so brutal what happens to Jessica that I think it's gone back to being enough of a deterrent of like, hey, I'm not going out like that. I'm not going to lose the game on a rock. That it's never happened since then.
I forgot if this made the air or not, but Adam did say to Jessica that in another world, their roles are flipped, where Jessica makes it to the final three and wins the game. Mm-hmm. And I could really see that because Adam and Jessica were in a very similar position. So it really was brutal. It was brutal being there in person, seeing it happen to her, because she's a very nice person. She played such a great game. And to be cut off like that, that was brutal.
Yeah. And I wonder, and now we have smaller tribes, and I think that like the show, I think is maybe hoping, like we've gotten where that the rock draw almost happened in Survivor 42. I think they're always hoping that like this person lost their vote, and I think they're hoping for this scenario to pop up where it happens again. I just think that the players, want to avoid that.
Yeah, and it would make sense too, because you work so hard to get out there and then you play this very tough game, and you don't want to lose that agency and that power to be able to cast your vote and determine who goes out. You don't want to leave it to chance, right? So it makes a lot of sense that players would be very adverse to that kind of scenario.
Will, you voted for Adam at the end, and I think your explanation was you voted for him out of respect, even though he affected your game. And I thought, what a very mature thing to do, and to say that you gave him your vote because he played such a great game. I thought that was very cool.
Yeah, he deserved it. And I remember sitting, I think it was maybe final 5 or final 6 when I was on the jury perspective, and I was looking at all these players and I'm like, who's going to win this game? And it just dawned on me. I see Adam sitting there and I'm like, nobody's looking at Adam. Nobody's trying to go after him. Nobody's like thinking of him as a big threat. And I thought in that moment, I'm like, I think he might just pull this off. And he played such a fantastic game. I don't know. And watching him play was fantastic because he had such great rapport building with everybody. His strategy of only lying to people once, he would only ever tell a lie one time, so that way you never really knew whether he was lying. You never picked up on his tell. I thought that was genius. He really just through and through had the social game on lock.
Did you watch when Adam came back for Winners at War?
I did. I wish that podium was an idol. I really do. I think he played a great game. That was a tough season. I think all those amazing players, but he did the best he could under the circumstances that he had. And I loved watching him again. I loved watching the whole cast. That was a great season.
Will,
you stayed in touch with Adam?
Adam and I, it's been a little while. He's another one that I got to reach back out to. But yeah, him and I did stay in touch for a little while, for a few years there.
Will, would you consider ever playing Survivor again?
I can never say no. If CBS gives the if they give the call, I have to at least consider it. With everything falling into place, with life just being married, but I actually would love to play with my wife. I don't know if they're ever going to do a blood versus water season again, but that would be fun. I know 50's around the corner. I don't know what that's going to be, but
make the pitch. Why would they want you to be like the new? Was John Cody also? Well, he's a doctor, but like a would. I guess maybe you two could be like they were in DC also.
Yeah. So, I mean, for her, she's much more entertaining than me. She is very vibrant and loud personality. I think she would pop on TV. She's done all these like pageants and stuff like that. And she's used to the spotlight. So she's really good with that kind of stuff. And also too, she's just such a bubbly and friendly personality. I think she'd do great at the social game. In terms of the challenges and everything like that and having to starve out on an island, she might not like that as much, but I think it would be a fun experience, and I think she would really pop. And
I don't know if everybody likes that part.
Believe it or not, when I was 18, I kind of lived for it. I was like, this is exciting. This is awesome. I'm actually out here starving and doing the whole Survivor thing. But yeah, looking back on it, it was not great.
Mm-hmm.
So, Will, what would be a good theme for 50?
A good theme for 50. I know Legends has been thrown out a lot. I think 50 could be a good Legends season. You could get a second chance out there. I've also heard a lot of fans say they want like pre-merge people, right? Like some of the big pre-merge personalities. I don't know about for 50, but I think that would be an interesting returning player season as well.
I think I saw where you had told Dalton Ross that you'd love to see a season with no idols, no swaps. What else did you say? No twist, just totally.
Good luck with that, Will.
Totally back to basics.
Back to basics, back to the 39 days. I know that's not going to happen either, but it would be nice to have a season like that, especially with some new school players who are so used to idols, and you don't tell them there's nothing out there, so they're looking for these idols and they're not out there. I think that would be kind of fun to see.
I also saw that, I don't know if this has changed since I heard you say this, but that your favorite player was Brian Heidick.
Brian Heidick, oh man, he definitely was an interesting one. I'm trying to remember when I said that. I must have been in high school watching Thailand just recently. I remember for a while saying Randy Bailey was the one who I just love Randy. But Brian Heidick was, that's an interesting answer. I don't even remember giving that.
I'll say a very interesting answer. Yeah.
But Rob, he did say he really respected Tony Valachos.
Sure.
And you, Rob C.
Oh.
Yes, he
You
did.
sure you didn't mean Boston, Rob, Will?
No. I love Survivor Amazon. That was a great season.
Yes. Okay. Well, I don't know if you were old enough to watch it when it was on, Will.
No,
even when it re-aired. My wife said my kids can't watch it.
Well, Will, so this could have changed too, but that your favorite season, which I mean, the cast is so phenomenal, was Panama, because of the bottom 7 or the top 7, however it goes. Rob, stop it. That you love those in the Panama. So what a great cast.
I don't think Survivor could ever replicate that season. I mean, that final 7 was one of the most amazing group of people I've ever seen on television. And yeah, I mean, Sari, Shane, like you just had so many great people out there. So that was a lot of fun.
T-Bird, you gonna ask him any of your other famous questions?
Yes, I want to. I think I know the answer, but I still have to ask him. So this question comes from Tina Wesson. We had her on earlier in this season. Do you have, since Survivor, well, you were only 18, have you gotten any tattoos that have represented Survivor?
None that represents Survivor. And I thought about it. I thought about getting like an Ikabula tattoo, like with the turtle was kind of our symbol, but I never ended up getting it. Ikabula was a real bonding experience for the 6 of us out there. That was the 3rd tribe created out of that season. And yeah, we were on an island with nothing. And that really was a great we were at the lowest of lows at that point. We couldn't sleep. We didn't really eat much. And we came together, the six of us. So if I was to get a Survivor tattoo, it would be an Igabula tattoo.
Well, if you and Allison go and play Blood versus Water, y'all can get matching tattoos when you get off.
That'd be good.
That would be really cool. I think she would definitely be open to that.
So you have a tattoo, which I'm kind of surprised of. What is your tattoo of, if you don't mind sharing it with us?
Yeah, it's just a Bible verse on my forearm here, and it's just like a little writing inscription there. So it's a small tattoo, but yeah, did get one. It was funny because in my interview with Jeff, I told him, yeah, I don't think I'd ever get a tattoo, and he flat out asked me, he's like, "Is that because you're afraid of commitment?"
Whoa!
Yeah, I was like, oh,
coming
boy.
in hot.
I think he was testing me a little bit to see what my answer would be to that, and I didn't really respond. But years later, I ended up getting the tattoo.
How to take that, Jeff. Well, I would love to hear your thoughts on, somebody who has come out of this Survivor experience like so well-rounded from all accounts. I would think that it could potentially really do a number on a young person to go through this Survivor experience at 18 years old, right out of high school. Of course, I'm sure you might be the exception to it where, everything seemingly has gone so well for you. Do you think Survivor should be putting such young people on the show?
I certainly think it's definitely okay to put young people on the show, so long as you got to do that whole long psych evaluation, make sure that they're ready for it, and then also providing resources after the fact. I think Survivor now provides a little bit of counseling after the fact. I think that's very important, and encouraging maybe even getting your own therapist both before and after, really working on that mental health, because that was one thing I wish I did after Survivor, is get a counselor, talk to somebody about it. I didn't end up doing that, but I think young people certainly can play the game. I think they just need a lot of support through it, both from family and friends, and maybe from a therapist or someone like that.
Yeah, I think even with people that are 21, I've seen people who are 21 come and play the show, even win the show. They have it's a great first step of their adult life. Seen it also go badly for people, who come into the show and then, get that at such a young age, and it ends up completely derailing their future as the years go by. So it really, it's like flip a coin.
Yeah, it is really tough. I think the perfect age to play Survivor is around mid-20s. I think for these younger people who are playing, Adam, I think, was 24 when he played. That's a good age. You're a little bit older, a little bit more mature. But at the same time, I don't want to prevent any young people from playing, because I did it, and so many others have, and some people it really does work out well.
On the finale of Winners at War, Jeff said they're looking for people as young as 16 to play Survivor. What'd you think of that?
I'm hoping that he was just saying that to be like, let's get some 16, 17-year-olds kind of
in the pipeline, in our farm team.
Yeah, when they turn 18, 19, 20, then we'll put them out there.
Interesting.
A 16-year-old actually being out there, that to me is a little young. Even I have to draw the line somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
But Will, that's what you did when you applied, right? You just wanted to get in the pipeline for playing at 22.
Exactly. Yep. I never anticipated getting on at 18. I just figured I can apply, I should apply, and maybe in a couple years when I'm in college, I'll get a chance. But they came and knocked it, and I couldn't say no.
Yeah. Well, is there anything else that you want to let people know about your Survivor experience that is something that you think is important for people to understand about you?
Yeah, I think for Survivor in general, and with my experience, don't hold back. Don't play fearful. Don't hesitate.
Jeff would love this. Yeah.
Yeah, because I feel like my regret of playing my season, I don't really hold myself, too much accountable because I was so young, but I was so afraid of making these benchmarks. I just wanted to make it to the merge. I just wanted to win an immunity challenge. I just wanted to make it to the loved ones visit. But because of that, I sacrificed my game for so long. if I went out there just playing the game I wanted to play and having fun with it and not being afraid of getting voted out, I think it would have been a much more enjoyable experience. And I think I might have been able to pull off some pretty cool moves too.
Yeah. It's a great metaphor for life, Will.
Absolutely. Yeah. Never hold back and just do what you want to do.
So, Rob, I know when I played that we all did what you said you were doing. We didn't want to be the first one off. We wanted to make the merge. So I think that's kind of normal. Rob, did you find yourself doing that, or was there a difference between the first time you played and the second time you played?
I think that I just had such low expectations of what was going to happen the first time that I was just like, this is so great. I can't believe I'm here. I can't believe they're letting me do this. So I think I just looked at every day as a gift, more so than I was afraid of making a mistake, because I felt like that they made a mistake by putting me on the show. I wasn't necessarily worried about screwing up my position. I think the second time I played, I had higher expectations and maybe might have been more fearful of making a mistake.
Will, Rob was recruited from Big Brother. He had applied for Big Brother.
So what? Why do you have to bring that up right now, T-Bird?
Because that's what you were looking for. Like, I wanted Survivor. That's all I wanted. Will wanted Survivor. That's all he wanted. You wanted Big Brother.
Okay, so what?
Will that? Hey, whoa, hold on. I got to ask Will something about this.
Yeah.
So we just talked to a few months or so ago, Nick Brown from Australia.
Mm-hmm.
Y'all have a lot in common. He's a U.S. Navy JAG officer, an attorney. You know, y'all have a lot in common. I don't know if you followed him or know much about him from Australia, but he's quite an impressive young man, just like you are. Very much. Oh, I know what I want to ask Rob. I want to ask Will. At 18 years old, when you go up to the voting confessional and you're writing the name, and then you do the air to throw off the other players. Do you know about this, Rob?
No.
This is pretty cool. Tell him about it, Will.
So I'm trying to remember which vote that was that the rock draw or
Zeke, and then you air.
Yes, that is what. So to try to throw off that I flipped my vote, I wrote down Zeke, but then air wrote Hannah to try to make them think that I was voting one way but not the other, to try to get somebody to play an idol. And was that the rock draw, or was that the final 9 where it was where I voted out Zeke? And yes, I wrote down Zeke, but air wrote Hannah to try to.
What do you mean you air wrote Hannah?
So you could kind of see how many letters people are writing. So I wrote down Zeke 4 letters, and then I air wrote 2 letters, like an AH, and I did it really exaggerated.
So are they listening to the pen stroke? And then Adam does play an idol, right? Did you force that?
Adam told me after the fact that he was looking at my right arm to see how many letters I wrote and the pen strikes,
players get to trick themselves.
And that's kind of what I was going for. I didn't think it would work, but in that moment, yeah, Adam told me it did. I don't know if that was really what threw him over the edge to playing the idol, or if he was going to play it anyway. But
very smart.
Yeah.
Very
T-Bird,
smart.
Anything else for Will?
Yes, but just one more thing. I just want to mention we lost a cast member, Mama Kim, here recently. And I know Sunday was such a huge, beautiful person. And it looked like your whole cast pulled together and we're so close with that. I did want to mention Sunday. What a beautiful, beautiful person. And I know it affected y'all as it affected a lot of us.
Yes, Sunday was the glue for our cast afterwards. And she was one person that I really kept in a lot of contact with. And her family is just so beautiful and amazing. And it was a really, really sad loss. Absolutely.
Yeah. So thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you for having me. It's been a long time since I've done one of these podcasts, and it was a lot of fun.
I remember after the season was over that you sat down with Jordan Parhar to talk about your Survivor experience.
Yes, Jordan, that was a fun interview too. I absolutely love Jordan Parhar.
Yeah. Okay. Well, anything you want to tell people to check out?
Yeah, so my Instagram is just Will_Wahl, and I post a little bit on there. It's been a while since I've been on Twitter, but with season 50 coming up, maybe I'll have to start posting a little bit more about Survivor stuff. That's
okay.
Wahl.
It's a good strategy. It's a good strategy, Will. It's a good strategy Because you're always thinking ahead. I know you are.
He's a smart guy.
Yeah. It's fun to read about Survivor. Yeah.
Good.
Okay. Will, thank you for making some time to catch up with us here on Talking with T-Bird.
Thank you. Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Thank
Okay.
you, Will.
Take care, Will.
Bye.
All right, everybody, there you have it. Will Wahl.
Will Wahl. So, Rob, 26 years old now. A lot of people don't even play before they're 26.
Yeah, where'd the time go?
I know. And Rob, look at all he's done in these last few years. So I think he's like so neat. And then playing at 18, I think he played such a mature, just his whole game was like, for an 18-year-old, they couldn't have picked a better.
He was ahead of his time, for
He
sure.
was.
Like, he had some big ideas.
He was definitely ahead of his time.
He's a smart guy.
He's got to be proud of, like you said, of how he played to get that far down. And the cast was amazing.
Yeah.
Whole
Because
cast.
I did not have any good ideas about anything at 18 years old. I only had bad ideas.
Well, anyway, so
It would be
yeah.
many years later until I would have one good idea.
What was the one good idea, and how many years later was it?
Can't say on the podcast.
Okay. All right. Yeah, he was wonderful. His life has
T-Bird.
had quite a change in the last year, in a good way.
Sure. Okay. What's next for you, T-Bird?
Rob, I think we just have a couple of podcasts left before Survivor starts up. So
You got people in the pipeline? You got it ready to go?
this is where I'm supposed to say, yes, I do, but I don't. I've got a couple of things out there, but I don't have anything.
All right.
solid,
Audience, you know what to do. Tell T-Bird what you want.
at T-Bird Cooper, send it to me. And a lot of times I'll try to answer everybody back. They'll ask me about people that I have been working on for 5 years. So
Wow.
Send them to me and I'll keep working on them. Definitely.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us for another Talking with T-Bird. You can listen to all of the back episodes of Talking with T-Bird in our Talking with T-Bird podcast feed at robinswebsite.com/T-Bird feed. Take care, everybody. Have a good one. Bye.